Well, nothing to worry about. That's what New York Governor Kathy Hochul telling businesses here in the Empire State after courts ruled, of course, against former President Trump in that civil fraud case. Kelly O'Grady is live outside Trump Tower at this hour with the latest. Kelly.
Well, it's great to see you. Yeah, nothing to worry about. That verdict was pretty damning, though I will highlight he did avoid what's being called the corporate death penalty. So a previous ruling said that he would have to dissolve all of his New York businesses. He will not have to do that, but he is still facing a number of challenges ahead. The first being he can't serve as an executive in the state for 3 years, his sons for 2. A court-appointed monitor will oversee all of his businesses during that period, but it doesn't prevent him from appointing a trusted advisor or even a family member to run things in his absence. However, the financial penalties, you can't get around it. They're huge. The judge ordered him to pay $355 million, close to $100 million in interest. To pay that fine, he could have to sell some of his New York real estate holdings. More likely he has close enough to that in cash on hand. Now, the biggest challenge could lie in his financing needs. The judge ruled he can't get a loan from any institutions with New York charters, so think the big banks that are headquartered here in New York. Instead, he'd have to resort to smaller institutions or friends for any personal or business loans. There's also a world where former President Trump doesn't remain in New York. That's a sentiment that's being shared by other New York business leaders. Governor Kathy Hochul, though, is trying to calm their fears. Watch.
The law-abiding and rule-following New Yorkers who are business people have nothing to worry about because they're very different than Donald Trump and his behavior.
Now, I can tell you from what we're hearing in the New York business community, a lot of folks are worried. Could they be next? Could their industries be next? I do hear, though, my good friend and colleague Charles Payne, Making Money host, is coming up at 8:40 on your show. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. I'll send it back to you.
Oh, no doubt about that. Kelly, thank you so much. And she's talking about the angle there on the onerous legal judgment that came down, that huge dollar amount. But this week could bring even more developments in this ongoing broader legal saga. The Supreme Court could issue an opinion on that Colorado ballot access case as early as this Wednesday. So here to break that down and look at the potential impact of all of this, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Greg, all right, we've had the weekend to digest what happened on Friday. As you wake up Monday morning, how are you feeling about the $350 million and maybe the appeals process moving forward? Because there are a lot of people sort of chattering about this not perhaps standing for much longer.
Oh, I don't think it would, even though the highest court is occupied, the full court, by 7 justices appointed by Democrat governors. But even they would look at this and say it's ludicrous. Because under the law, Guy, damages must always reflect the measurable harm. Here, there was none. Not a single person lost money. Nobody testified they were injured. Just the opposite. Lending banks made enormous profits. So, how in the world you can use a consumer protection statute where the consumer has not been harmed is a legal mystery. The bank executives testified they were never defrauded or deceived. This was a biased judge who happily bought into the contorted arguments of the Democrat attorney general who ran on the promise to get Trump.
Yeah, I mean, that's indisputable. She did. It's on tape. Now she's using the law to do exactly that. And when there's no victim, that's where I think a lot of people get hung up, Greg, because, look, if there's someone who's been harmed, fine. But as the trial played out, that wasn't the case. And I was really struck by an AP story. They went back, they looked at this law and the application of this law over 70 years. They never found a single other example of it being used this way. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think it is. And, look, this was an attorney general who, as I say, campaigned on a promise to target a specific individual and then spent a couple of years searching for an offense to pin on him. When you campaign on a promise like that, when you prejudge a case that you don't even have access to the evidence and preordain an outcome, that is an egregious violation of the canons of ethics that govern prosecutors. And look, Donald Trump didn't prepare his financials. He hired professionals, top lawyers, accountants, real estate experts. They're the ones who did the valuations. Then the banks did their own due diligence, and they said, you know what? He has more than enough to secure the loans. In the end, they called him their whale. They wanted to do more business.
Right, more
so again,
business,
nobody was harmed.
All right, Greg, and we'll also keep an eye on that Supreme Court situation. We could see an opinion as early as this week. There's scuttlebutt in D.C. Maybe it would be 9-0. I guess we'll see sooner rather than later. Greg, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.